Yes, you saw the title right. 7 and 7 is game breaking, but everyone is using it wrong. Here's how. If you search up 7 and 7 guides on YouTube, you find a bunch of undeserved hate videos, but the one thing that's common throughout them all? Yeah, that's right. They aren't good. They show the most basic mind-numbing strategies. Let's take the most popular 7 and 7 guide as an example. This YouTuber made a video titled, "This character isn't trash, you just don't get it." He then goes on how to not play him properly. And most guide videos are exactly like this one. That is why in this video you will find out how to play 7 and 7 the right way. Not this propaganda that I feed you. Seven and 7 is not just a survivalist. He can also be a sentinel, as shown with the example. And the support. Starting off, let's get his abilities out of the way. We all pretty much know this, but Clone summons a clone, which is his most overpowered ability. Cold UI teleports you to the furthest spawn location. It's also really situational. Inject Cursor mode is what you're mostly gonna be using, as the others are kinda bad, except Pathfind sometimes. Now what can you manage with Clone? Let's talk about it a bit more. The Clone ability has a cooldown of 27 seconds and lasts for 10 seconds. There are many ways to utilize this ability. Let's start with the best ways to use Clone. First up, being Bodyblocking. You already seen some of the clips, but basically, this is where you use Inject on Cursor mode and position the clone in between you and the killer. You're supposed to use this when you're low on stamina, like roughly 1 to 10 left, and it's about the attack. Plus, if you know the killer has more stamina than you. Why did he show this example? Or if you're cornered, because then you can just buy time. Otherwise, it's a waste unless you're blocking like a big move like Walk Speed Override or Demonic Pursuit. This obviously doesn't work with Slasher nor Sixer as their attacks pierce. Here's another demonstration of how to do it in-game. As you can see, 7 and 7 is in a looping spot and his stamina is low. Using the clone, he starts to regen his stamina safely. The killer has to either 1, sprint and lose stamina advantage, or 2, just wait out the clone duration. Either way, it's a win for us. But then you might be thinking, Slasher and Sixer hard counter. And I mean, you're not wrong, but there is also a tech that works against them. And that being React Parrying. As you know, when you're one-shot and you send out the clone will copy your HP. So if like a Milestone 4 Coolkid were to kill the clone, he's gonna be stuck in a long animation. You can do this by calculating your HDV, or as you would call it, hitbox drag value. You can calculate your HDV by adding your ping plus your killer's ping and your reaction time. You want to keep your clone alive for as long as possible, so sending it out right before the attack is a good decision. Just like guest 1337, react to your attack and send out your clone, but the linger issue still exists. Well, not really. You remember that Slasher and Sixer have piercing? The tech is simple really. Get hit and send out your clone right after. Since the hitbox pierces, the clone will die, resulting in them getting stuck in a kill animation. Let's move on to the second way to use the clone. Second up being the new hitbox priority implementation. In the recent patch notes, they made it so that 7 and 7 has hitbox priority above even guest 1337 when their HP is higher than the current survivors. This means that 7 and 7 can body block for other survivors super efficiently. With the same principle as the body block tech, you send out your clone when the survivor either has low stamina or is cornered. Then you try to position it in between the survivor and the killer, resulting in the clone tanking a lot of hits. You're gonna see a lot of this in the gameplay part, by the way. This new hitbox implementation doesn't only apply to just survivors, but it also applies to buildings, which means you can body block for a turret or a dispenser. The last somewhat niche usage? Body blocking the killer. But it's not really what you think. This will be rarely used, as let's face it, most of you watching this video do not know how to loop, and that's fine. But for the teammates that do know, putting your clone in a loop spot can force the killer to get stuck or walk around it, letting you keep repeating the tech. Moving on, let's get into the second ability. Cold UI. It's a very situational ability with a long cooldown of 50 seconds. Using it in a LMS is usually not even a good choice if you're already in a good position. Then there are even more factors I cannot say out loud because my editor didn't give me time, but you can pause to read. It still has some use, like moving around. You can also use it with a medkit and cola at the same time. If you get some good distance like this, you can pull one off, but don't count on it. Another instance is if you're in a check spot. A check spot is basically where the killer reaches an ideal spot to regen stamina and begin chase. This will also be shown in the gameplay part. This doesn't mean you're safe, as where your teleporting matters as well. Cold UI is just highly situational and risky to use in any chase. That doesn't mean it can't be good. Honorable mention to the tech. Yo, I can't say that. Now for the techs that kinda suck. First being fake cloning. There is little to no point in doing this, yet so many guide videos show it. Subscribe, please!
Here's something only experienced 7 and 7 players do. Pretending to be the clone.
This tech usually never works, and if you mess it up, you're kinda cooked. There are two situations where they proclaim you should use it. When somebody is getting chased, which is literally meaningless, because why would they switch targets? Or where you want to pass the killer by acting as a clone. Don't do this, as most killers would hit you first to check, unless if you made it like super obvious. Like, you are not playing Valorant, bro. This is not the same thing, as there is high risk and no reward. Second up, being clone swapping. Basically, you run into your clone and both of you switch locations, so they go for the clone. The one problem? It's super obvious which one is real and fake. Any killer could just also hit one of you and figure it out. 3. Using the clone as you're intended to by the developers. You need to be out of sight and in an ideal distance for this to work. A good killer knows and will try to find you. Which is why you should be out of sight. You can usually only trick noob killers with this, and if you can trick them, you can probably loop them. You're way better off using the body block tech or react blocking. With all that information being said, now you know how a 7-7 is actually an all-rounder role. Clone being sentinel, support and survivalist. He has insane survivability, basically 2 health bars and a getaway. He can stun the killer for a long period of time, like 4 seconds for most. He can also take damage for teammates and buildings like a Dusakar shield, but better. So you have 2 choices when you load into a game. You can either be the most annoying person to the killer and probably make them rage in chat, or you can just bomb sweat generators. Personally, I like the units. So please, when a 7-7 is sending a clone to help, do not behave like it's the next gen virus and actively dodge it, because some people run away from the clone instead of the killer. Now that all information has been said, let's put this knowledge into the game. Here's some insane 7-7 survivor rounds against pro killers with some nice text commentary. Anyways, enjoy!
Oh, not the whole time, you nitwit! I need iron blocks! Or better bricks! I don't want to be sorry!
I got this!
No, not the whole time, you nitwit! I see you! So annoying! I see your iron blocks!
Yeah, well, oh my god. Yo, no. We gotta call them. What's up? Oh, here, I picked up this dating button. What even happened? I stunned him. How did you stun it? What is the title?
終わらせてやるよ。悪く思うな。悪く思うなよ。来いよ。うわ、どうした？来いよ。